but it's not really like the other blockchains because this one is really focused on the development of the NFTs, on the game size of the assets. When Ethereum was transferring to the Ethereum 2.0, and at that time there was a lot of boom on the NFT spaces, but at that time the users were facing a lot of difficulties while minting NFTs, and there were very large transactions going on there.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Web3 Business Show, brought to you by Token Minds. My name is Rob, and as usual, we are providing valuable content for industry specialists, founders, entrepreneurs in the Web3 space, brought to you by fellow industry experts. So, as usual, I have our tech lead, Ed, in the call. Welcome, Ed.
Hi, everyone.
And today we also have our team member and blockchain specialist, Hemang. Hi, Hemang.
Hi everyone.
So today we're going to talk about the immutable blockchain. Of course, we have several clients that are utilizing this technology. It's been around for a little while, and I think it's a good time to kind of go into it a little bit more. What the use is, what the status is of the technology right now, and of course the use cases. So, Hemang, can you intro this for us?
Yeah, sure. So, uh, uh, talking about the immutable blockchain. So, immutable blockchain is also another L2 blockchain, which is based on the EVM. But it's not really like the other blockchains because this one is really focused on the development of the NFTs, on the game size, all the assets. Like the all the other blockchains that we see on the top of the L1, they are just a general blockchains, and they are there for the use cases of everything which an L1 can do, but in a faster way. But in case of Immutable X, it is the another L2, which is, like I said earlier, is mainly focused on the development of the NFTs and how it can be made faster, how the transitions can be made quicker, how the users can be more convenient, how the development of NFTs and game-based assets on it can be done in a more efficient manner. So that's pretty much insight about what Immutable X is and why it was on. So yeah.
And what has been the progress on this? Because you mentioned NFTs, and I know a lot of gaming kind of applications are utilizing this. So is it specifically for NFTs, integrating them in gaming, in terms of the tokenization of the loot and other assets, or are there also other use cases?
Yeah, so basically, the backstory about Immutable X is that it was developed during the time when Ethereum was transferring to the Ethereum 2.0, and at that time there was a lot of boom on the NFT spaces, but at that time the users were facing a lot of difficulties while minting NFTs, and there were very large transactions going on there. So it was developed primarily for working on the part of NFTs, but as soon the progress gained and the momentum gained, it also moved its space towards gaming, because in the gaming world also there is a significant use case of NFTs. So right now it is more focused on the gaming assets, you can buy in-house things inside the games, which are actually created by making NFTs. But yes, so the other use cases of this can be anything which is digital, and it can be tokenized in form of NFTs or stuff like that. So yeah, the primary use case for this today is actually gaming, but the core was developed for making the interaction with NFTs faster and efficient.
Oh,
Sure.
Sorry, yeah, that's an interesting backstory there, Haman. Thank you for this. Ed, do you have any questions about this?
yeah. So you already mentioned that this immutable is primary purpose is to increase the transaction speed with the NFTs, right? So that's the difference from NFTs in Ethereum. So aside from that, what are the other advantages of using immutable X?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, before telling the advantage of the immutable X, I would like to first give an overview about what was exactly the limitations of the NFTs on that, because let's first try to understand the limitations on that. So, coming on the limitations, why we are not able to use it on Ethereum, like we are able to use NFTs on Ethereum, but why there was actually a need for immutable X. So the limitations for Ethereum or the L1 was that it has low scalability, and it had a little bit of poor user experience because user had to spend many times 5 minutes or 8 minutes to get the NFTs inside the wallet. So it was giving a quite poor user experience. And then there was a slow development experience, like when it was made on the side of the development end. The developers had to integrate quite a lot of things into the blockchain, and it was not really development's good approach. So that was the limitations. And now comes now that I've explained the limitations of the NFTs, I can come back to your question, which is what are the advantages of the immutable X on other blockchains and as well as on the L1. So the first advantage of this is that it is highly scalable because it is using zero knowledge proof and the rollups in its scaling engine. At its core, it's utilizing the power of zero knowledge proof. And then the other important part of this is that it is using API abstraction method. So basically, what it's doing is that when you are creating NFTs and everything, the transactions are made in a way the API works. Like it is very fast, and the minting and all of the transactions that's happening on the immutable X is similar to a RESTful API. And in this way, the fee structure and the gas fees and everything which is being added on the immutable X is quite low as compared to other L2s. And the third part is that it has a very great in-house SDK, so where you don't really need to write the code which is not useful. You can just write the code which is done for your gaming assets and everything. So these are few of the advantages that immutable X has experienced on the top of the other L1s and the other L2s. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So, what is the role of design?
Yeah, sure. So the roll-up design involves the implementation of the Stark. So Stark is also another ZK rollup which was developed by Starkware, where it has the same structure as the prover and verifier. But inside a Stark, what it does is that it takes a lot of transactions onto the L2. They roll up inside one, and when the rollup is done, they send those transactions to the verifier on the L1, and that's how the transactions are verified. And then there is also another nodes into the Stark, which is called the operator nodes, and which are used to create order books operations inside the L2 chains. So that's why. So that's the basic core engine of the ZK rollups inside the Immutable X.
Yeah. Okay. So, you mentioned that they're using Stark as the zero knowledge proof, right? So there's another zero knowledge proof which is Snark. So why did they use Stark instead of Snark?
Oh yeah, definitely. So the usage of Stark is mainly because Stark is post quantumly secured. So the like if we talk about the pipeline, first snarks came, but when the snarks were introduced, they were not really post quantumly secured, and that's why the stars were developed actually on the top of Stark only. But they use the methodologies of Stark. But in the Stark, like when we are talking about Snark, there is an addition of non-argumentative proofs. But in the Stark, there is implementation of transparent argumentative proofs. So in this way, the verification process which is done on Snark, like on the Stark, is quite a lot faster as compared to the snark. And also the other thing is that when doing the batch minting processes, snark is able to do much less batch minting as compared to stark, and stark has a really good win over there. So that's why it is using stark instead of traditional snarks. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, thank you for that, Hemang. So for my last question, how are the assets minted on Immutable X?
So interestingly, on Immutable X, they have an additional feature for the asset. So unlike if you want to mint an asset on the other L2s, so what it does is that when you are minting asset on L2, it is using the transition on the L2, but the assets are really minted on the L1. But in case of Immutable X, when you are minting the assets on L2, they are minted on the L2 itself. So in this case, when you are doing the post transaction, like the post minting activities, for example, transferring of the assets or redeeming some qualities of it. So in this way, it is also and in this way, the transaction pieces and all of these are less because all the transaction is happening between the L2 instead of going back on L1 uh, and then resorting back to L2. So what Immutable X is doing in the hindsight is that the assets are minted on the L2 itself. So that's an advantage of using Immutable X assets, and that's why I think so. By 2022, the total number of assets that were minted onto the Immutable X exceeded as compared with the Ethereum. So I'm talking about the NFT assets.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think that's it for all my questions, Hemang. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aman. That's quite insightful. And it's been a few years now since Immutable launched. Like you say, to combat those issues with Ethereum back then. I know Ethereum right now it's much more affordable as well. There's a lot of other layer two solutions out there. What would you say are some alternatives in the market, and what would be the decision making process for projects to choose Immutable over other potential layer twos?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, if we if a project wants to go for Immutable X, and if they want to understand where Immutable X would stand out in their project uh, pipeline, so they need to understand that Immutable X is only good for the stuff where it is included game-based assets or some tokenized or the NFTs thing. But if they have their project which includes a DeFi structure or any other structure, then it's not really good in that part because the main part was developed for the gaming. Yeah, it can be used for the GameFi, but also for the GameFi, the advantage of using Immutable X is going to be it is going to speed up the real transactions on the game. But for the finance part of GameFi, the transactions are going to be a little bit less uh, fast and not very relevant. But yes, to understand if you want to use Immutable X is just for the game-based things or for the NFT-based projects, it's best to go with this one.
And do you feel that this kind of specific use case, right, that it's like for in-game assets, for example, is that like a typical kind of solution and scenario that you see in the future, right, for let's say layer twos, that there's like a particular layer two for each for each kind of problem or use case, or do you see a little bit more like modular style solutions, like I think there's Cosmo, for example, that where you can just launch your own layer 2 for your particular dApp, let's say. So would you go for this kind of general solution blockchains, or do you think there is more like potential for specific blockchains for your particular project, especially like a layer 2?
Okay, so if I want to see on the futures, and I think so, it will be more good if the blockchains are general based because I think so. In the future, when the projects are going to be developed and it's going to be more advanced, then they're going to have capabilities of having other things into the projects. So like they are not going to be a domain specific projects much. So for example, every game are going to have a height of the finance, and all of them can have the liquidity pools and stuff like that. So in that sense, if the blockchain is really good for the general use cases, then it's a better alternative. But yes, if some projects are developed only on the top of a specific solution, on that cases, the solution specific blockchains could be better. But if we just have if we have to select one out of two, then I would really go for general solution blockchain.
Right. So basically, in the future, it could work in a way where, if you build your, let's say, application layer solution, you would have a blockchain that you choose particularly for, let's say, your in-game assets. If you have a gaming element, and then you maybe have a IPFS blockchain for storing your data. Then there might be, your layer one where you're kind of like, I don't know, shard all the data and have that as well. Then maybe there's another solution for the transaction processing. Maybe there's even an AI dedicated blockchain solution or data solution as well. So you basically put everything together in order to make your decentralized app potentially.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, we're running at the end of the episode. Thank you, Hemang. Thank you, Ed, for being here. And thanks everybody for watching and listening. Goodbye.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye.